Hello and welcome back to the Hyperspace Podcast. My name is Sam and I'm joined by the magnificent Michael Ghosh. Michael, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm not sure I'm deserving of such an entrance,
Uh,
but thank you.
I think you are. And on this podcast, we are going to be discussing the Star Wars upcoming shows and movies. Of course, in December, Disney announced like hundreds, I think it's fair to say, of new shows and movies and just content. So we're going to be going through all the most of the things announced, talking about what we think will happen with them, um, potential plot, like whether we think that they'll be good and what, and just give our thoughts on them. We won't be talking about the Taika Waititi film, the Kevin Feige film, the J.D. Dillard film, or the Rian Johnson trilogy, due to a complete lack of information coming out about them. And just I mean, the Taika Waititi film has the most information. All we know is Taika Waititi's directing, and it's in the High Republic. I mean, we can't exactly talk for that for a while. And we'll also only be talking about the new shows and movies. We won't talk about Series 3 of The Mandalorian. We'll probably cover that in another podcast. But let's get straight to it. Star Wars Bad Batch, spring 2021 is the apparent release date. It's definitely coming out this year, but it's supposed to be in spring. Dave Filoni, executive producer. The group Clone Force 99, as they're also known, first introduced a 4-episode arc in the end of at the beginning of the last Clone Wars series. We got Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, Crosshair, Echo, and I think these characters could become fan favorites very very soon. Taking place after the events of Revenge of the Sith. Michael, give me your thoughts. What do you think?
I think if I was going to sum it up in one word, especially after the trailer, hype.
Yeah,
It's going to be so like I don't see this. I don't see any universe in which this could be bad, or I
yeah,
don't really see. I mean, I'm sure there's the possibility, but Dave Filoni is executive producer. I mean, he's overseeing it, and well, I don't think he's directing, but it just looks good. Like the trailer
yeah,
just looks good. It's got, like you said, interesting characters. It's sort of they've already in these have already introduced characters. They have an understanding of what they want to be doing with these characters. They understand what time period we know what time period it is, which is
yeah,
I think it's following the events of Revenge of the Sith. We may see Order 66 possibly,
yeah,
although what we saw is the announcement of the
yeah,
Galactic Empire, and that was geez, that was like that was
yeah,
mental. That was just it's just exciting to be a Star Wars fan right now. I think is like how it feels because, like we said, we've got so many new things that have been announced. This being the first one we're talking about, and as a huge Clone Wars fan, it looks like it's going to be good. And I believe it people are speculating it's already going to be a multi-seasonal show.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I certainly hope it is. I mean, I think it's going to be. It's after Clone Wars ended, especially after that last season, it ended so well, but people were still like after the end, oh, I just wish it could come back. And
craving
then
more, yeah.
they've effectively brought back in the Bad Batch, who are, I mean, Echo was already a fan favorite character in the Clone Wars, and he's now back. He's going to be in the Bad Batch as one of Clone Force 99, which is awesome. I think some of the things that in the trailer that excited me, Fennec Shard, of course, who
Yeah,
first introduced the
yeah.
Mandalorian. I think that could be really interesting, played by the same character as well. So there's not going to be like some Ahsoka like changing voice
Oh,
thing. And I think the Phase 3 clones look so nice. Just they're so well done in this. I just in the trailer, I'm just looking at it thinking, they look amazing.
it's going to be interesting to see how they decide to frame it and what the start point of the Bad Batch will be. Whether it be, we know the show is going to get like past the Revenge of the Sith and into that period where the Empire is just starting up. But it'd be interesting to see whether they decide they want to start during the very end of the Clone Wars, similar time frame to the end of season 7, where it's being set. I wonder if they're going to have events like we saw the announcement of the Galactic Empire, whether there'll be parts that match up to Revenge of the Sith, or parts where we see the Bad Batch before, like what missions they had gone on and had done before season 7 of the Clone Wars. I'm not sure if they'll do that, but it'll be interesting to see how they decide to explore the characters of the Bad Batch and the time period it's set in.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading that, or I was listening to Kathleen Kennedy talk about how they're trying to find their way as the galaxy transitions into the Galactic Empire, and it raises the question: are they going to be working for the Empire, or do you think they're going to be like rebelling against it, trying to make their own way, not necessarily turn into like rebels, but like, do you think they'll just do their own thing, or do you think they'll be working for the Empire?
Well, we don't know if they've got inhibitor chips, do we, at the moment, and how that's going to play a part in the show. Because we know, like you said, Kathleen Kennedy had said it was going to be the transition, and it'll be interesting to see how that's done and how they portray sort of the change from the Republic to the Empire from the view of the clone troopers, because we've seen it to some degree from Rex's point of view a little bit, because we've seen the end of the Clone Wars and how his view is in the Rebels TV show, but we've not ever seen we never really heard too much about the opinions of a sort of like, I guess you call it a regular, like non like a Captain Rex had his inhibitor chip removed, so it'd be interesting to see the point of view of someone who hasn't.
Yeah, no,
if they indeed haven't,
that would be a really interesting thing to follow. But realistically, this show's going to be brilliant, isn't it? Like, I may live to regret this, but I can't see a way that they can mess it up with Dave Filoni at the helm.
I can see how they could mess it up, but not with the team they've built around this, not with the people who've had the experience dealing with clone characters, not with the trailer is so promising, and they've picked the best time period to have set it in, because they could have set it like well before season 7, but which would be interesting nonetheless, but like they can still have that transition between the Republic to the Empire. I don't know how much of the transition they're going to show, as in how much of the Republic they'll show, and how much of the Empire they'll show. If it'll be the first episode will just be the immediate transition, or whether there'll be a couple of episodes where, like I was saying, maybe it'll be set in the Revenge of the Sith era, and then it'll transition after 2-3 episodes. Which I think either option will be interesting. Like you said, I don't see how they can do this badly, considering they understand the time period, and it's hard to see how they can do this wrong, because they know what they want to do with it, and it must have been in the works for a while as well. They knew that these were characters they wanted to pursue, and I'm just excited to see how it goes. I think it'd be great.
I agree. I'm really looking forward to it. Moving on to the other show, which is definitely, well, at the moment is going to be this year, is a Book of Boba Fett, coming out at the moment, December 2021. This was announced at the end of the last episode of The Mandalorian, where Boba Fett and Fennec Shand's just return to Jabba's palace, and just kill a really fat Bib Fortuna, or R.I.P. But yeah, this show is going to be executively produced by Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and Robert Rodriguez, who did The Mandalorian. What do you think this show is going to be about? Because there's not real much detail concerning it at the moment.
There's a few possibilities. We know that he's taken over Jabba Hutt's palace, and I'd assume Bib Fortuna was the head of what would have been the Hutt's syndicates or like gangs. He would have taken over that business when Jabba the Hutt was killed. In which case, I would assume the reason he went there was to take over this business. If that makes sense. So I can see him. He will be very uninvolved in the events of the Darksaber and what's going on with Mandalorian. I think he may get involved, when they do crossovers. But the TV show, I think, will be about this sort of like criminal underbelly of the New Republic era, which I think will be fascinating in like the potential for what they could do with this, especially as the New Republic's an era where we've seen it's like very lawless in the Outer Rim, more so than it was under the Empire.
Yeah.
And even the Republic, who struggled to manage that region of the galaxy.
Yeah, no, certainly. I think it will look to follow Boba Fett and Fennec as they become rulers of the criminal underworld. I think that's almost definitely what they're going to do. I can't really see what else they could potentially do with it. I don't think this will be a show that links necessarily with other shows, because there are some shows like, as we'll talk about in the Ahsoka and Rangers of the New Republic show, which I think are going to link together with the Mandalorian as well. I think this will be more of a standalone show that will just follow Boba Fett and Fennec Shand.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that, because I think we saw it a bit in the Mandalorian when with Boba Fett. He doesn't reveal that he's a Mandalorian because I don't know how to say it, but he doesn't really care too much whether he's a Mandalorian or not, or what other people's opinions of him are, which makes me think he's not too much interested, as we saw, about who's going to rule Mandalore. He honestly couldn't care about it too much. So I think, especially with that aspect, he will be uninvolved in it. Well, the Boba Fett, the Book of Boba Fett, will be uninvolved in the Mandalorian. Whether or not Boba Fett decides to get involved in season 3 of The Mandalorian or Ahsoka or Rangers of the New Republic is something else we'll have to see. And I guess for now we can only speculate on it. I think they'll try and his character will be weaved into those TV shows, but the actual show itself, the Book of Boba Fett, will be so separate from, like you said, the Mandalorian and what's going in within that sort of like a mini TV show universe, I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think yeah, as I said, there isn't too much necessarily to say about Book of Boba Fett, other than it'll be following them as they become rulers of the criminal underworld. Do you think this is this a show you're looking forward to? Is this one of your the shows you're most looking forward to?
I think I have for the shows films and we're talking about today, which we know about. So they're pretty much all the stuff they got announced. I think that I'm excited for all of the shows. I think this is one of the ones I'm most excited about, but it's one I expect will be good. It's one of the ones that everyone's excited about, I think. Yeah. Whereas there's a few shows on this list that I think will be good. I don't think people are thinking about talking about them very much, and there isn't that much hype behind them. And maybe I'm a little bit more excited in some ways for those because we don't know anything about them, which is why they're exciting. If that makes sense. We know that the Book of Boba Fett is pretty much in safe hands with with Dave Filoni, John Favreau, and Robert Rodriguez, and it makes sense they're going to use this character because when I was watching the end of The Mandalorian, I was surprised he wasn't in the climax of the season and the season finale, really. Besides basically being the kind of like distraction for them. And I was thinking they're going to have to use this character for something else. They've gone and got Tamora Morrison in to do this, and with a lot of the characters, they're on these. We said it, but I think we've said it in a previous episode. I've said it earlier. Is they're on these contracts that are multi-show, like in the MCU, where they're like contracted to appear in multiple shows and crossovers. And so I feel like at the time I was like, they're going to do something with this. I didn't know if they were going to do a show, but he's going to go somewhere, and I'm glad to see they have done this because he's one of the characters I think is a fan favorite, easily a fan favorite.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of all the ones we're talking about, all the shows named after a character and about a character are all fan favorite characters. And I think exploring the characters in a TV show is far better than what they did with Solo, because you have time to develop a character rather than just tell them their story, their origin story, because we don't really care about origin story so much as like seeing a character go from one place to another and develop as a character rather than just saying like in Han Solo, oh, this is how he got the Millennium Falcon, or this is how he met Chewie. There was no character development in that, especially as it was a film. They don't have the amount of time you get in a TV show, and I think Boba Fett from what we've seen in The Mandalorian is going to be an interesting character to explore. He's not just a simple bounty hunter. Now he's become like a character. Like in the original trilogy, he wasn't so much a character as he was just a cool background figure.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Like he sold action figures basically. Like he sold action figures and he looked cool.
Yeah.
Whereas now I think they've developed him beyond that point, and there's the good potential, and it's an exciting show, but we now know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
It's in safe hands and we know quite a lot about it. I say we know a lot about it. We've seen a trailer. Well, we've seen the post-credit cuts, like post-credit scene.
Yeah.
So we've actually seen from it, and we don't know what's going to happen in it, but we know that it's going to be different to The Mandalorian because of that scene.
Yeah. No, totally. And from one fan favorite to another, let's show into that Ahsoka. Being executively produced by John Favreau and Dave Filoni. We've got Rosario Dawson coming back as Ahsoka, which I know Michael not too keen on her character. Mandalorian, it's going to be around the timeline of Mandalorian. Michael, you and Rosario Dawson.
We can start with that. It's I think my issue isn't that she's bad as Ahsoka. More my issue is I'm so used to hearing Ashley Eckstein do the voice. And there's certain characterizations that character had that maybe we haven't seen so far. There's like certain things we haven't seen because obviously she doesn't act the way she does in Clone Wars or Rebels. There's I don't know how to explain it. There's certain like facial expression stuff we haven't seen. Like I don't know how to explain it, but I think it's got very good potential. I mean, it's not that I didn't like Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka. It's just strange having a character you've known as this one person who's done the voice, who's done pretty much everything related to this character, and has promoted the hell out of this character, and then suddenly have it switch is strange. I've since we did talk about it. We talked about it off camera before, quite a while back when we were talking about The Mandalorian. I said I wasn't sure about the performance. I have since rewatched that episode a few times because I've rewatched the series, and I think the performance has grown on me a little bit. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not that it was a bad performance; it's just very different. And I think this show will. I think this show is going to be good because I think we'll get used to it. If you're not used to it already, you'll get used to it in this
Yeah.
show. And it's because of the age gap between Rebels and this, I think it's easy enough to get used to it. I was hoping when Rosario Dawson was announced, it was going to be a Ray Parks situation where he's dubbed over by the voice actor Sam Whitaker, right?
Whitworth.
Sam Whitworth. So I was hoping it was going to be that situation, and obviously it wasn't. So uh, I think I'll get used to it though. With that, I think there's some other people who probably in the same camp as me where they like the performance, but it's not. It's something very different to what we were used to.
Yeah.
Again, Ahsoka's changed quite a lot as a character since Rebels. I think she's kind of accepted that she's a Jedi like completely now, rather than being like even when she kind of accepted in Rebels a bit, she's like still on the fence about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas
No.
now she's sort of like she's got over the guilt of surviving Order 66 a bit more.
Mm, yeah. No. I personally got over her voice like quite quickly. I mean, I understand people who are still a bit like, oh, I don't think that sounds right for her. But yeah, I personally got over her voice quickly. But look at the plot. What do you think this will be about? I mean, are they going to be looking? Is it going to carry on from Rebels? Are they going to be looking for Ezra and Thrawn? I mean, Thrawn was name dropped in the Mando series too. What do you think plot wise they'll go for?
We've heard rumors of a Rebels sequel show for a long time,
Yeah,
and I'm kind of hoping that's still in the works as a animated follow up show rather than a live action follow up.
yeah,
If that makes sense. Uh, but it could possibly this could be it. Otherwise, I could see this being something very different that won't explore Grand Admiral Thrawn, or it will, but he won't be present throughout the entire first season, and that could be explored in something else. It's hard to know because this could be what they were planning with the Rebel sequel series. In which case, yeah, I see Grand Admiral Thrawn being the main plot point. I think it'll be a similar situation to Moff Gideon, where like she doesn't really know where he is at
yeah,
all. So I think the first season could be a whole season of her basically doing a similar thing to Mandalorian, where he's going through planets and trying to find
yeah,
Grand Admiral Thrawn. I see it being something similar style to that, maybe. Although, um, the Mandalorian season, Mandalorian as a whole is basically a western. Like a lot of like
yeah,
some of even the plots are like I think one of the episode with Ahsoka was basically Fistful of Dollars, where he's like where he's on he's like tried it gets employed by one side of people and then ends up working for the other group of people, and he kind of the man in the middle, right? Which is based on a samurai movie called Yojimbo. And I feel like this will be the sort of samurai counterpoint to the Western style of
yeah,
the Mandalorian, where they'll be very similar tone wise, because like samurai and Western films are like very similar to each other because Westerns are inspired by samurai movies, or the old ones are. A lot of them are just remakes in a Western style. So I see this being like kind of I get the vibe this could be like a samurai show, which I think would be really cool because it would be there's a lot they could explore to do with the Jedi Order and sort of being a Jedi and how that what that will mean for her now. There isn't a Jedi Order to go back to, and that like the last year, as far as she knows, the only Jedi out there really is Ezra, because I don't think she knows about Luke yet, or if she does, she hasn't met up with him, which could be a plot point in Ahsoka. We don't know, but that could be something where she does that. Was it Baby Yoda's now unresolved?
Yeah.
Really, because otherwise we know Kylo Ren will kill him because he's with Luke.
Yeah.
So I see. Let's be honest. Disney Plus are smart and they like that they know the merchandise sells. I think they're going to want to include Baby Yoda in something, and I see this as being the show that if he's in something, it'll be this, and possibly the first season. The first season could be on Grand Admiral Thrawn, but I see the potential that she may end up getting Baby Yoda.
Fair enough.
Possibly.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, especially you referring to it as in the first series. So you firmly believe that this is going to be
multi-series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we heard that the contract was for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
For Rosario Dawson, which is where I'm understanding it's being multi-season, but also, like I said, I'd rewatched the episode where she was in, and I like it's easy when you rewatch it from a different perspective rather than thinking, oh, this is going to be like Ahsoka. I know it's going to be a different Ahsoka because of different actor, slightly different time period. I think this is a character that I think that we can say the fan base as a whole loves. Like, I think there's no character that unites the fan base besides Ahsoka, really. I think every other character can be a little bit divisive. Yeah. But I think as a whole, this is it's like the Mandalorian. It's something which I see as being like a uniting force in the fan base, which we kind of need at the moment still.
Yeah.
Like the fan base is getting so close to being sort of united into very polarized between opinions on Star Wars, but I think everyone agrees the Mandalorian was great. I don't think I've heard anyone say it was bad or anything too bad about it.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard any negative criticism about the Mandalorian.
No.
I agree this show could be similar, and it's supposed to link a lot to Reigns of the New Republic, which we can move on to now. Executively produced by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni. I promise we're not going to repeat this. Like they're not doing everyone, even though it does sound like it to start. Mandalorian timeline like Ahsoka, and Kathleen Kennedy teased this and Ahsoka will culminate in a climatic story event. Now, if that doesn't excite you, I don't know what will. Michael, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm already very excited for the Ahsoka show, having got used to Rosario Dawson as Ahsoka and the idea of this, and this Reigns of the New Republic. Again, I think this could be good. Again, I'm less hopeful about this show than Ahsoka or Book of Boba Fett or some of the other shows we'll discuss. I think this is sort of a dark horse wild card sort of situation where this could suddenly be the one that comes from not nowhere. I mean, some people think it's going to be good, but I don't. I think this could be the wild card where I'm surprised. Like, if it's good, it could be good, but it could be bad, and it'd be great if it could be a good show, especially if Ahsoka and the Rangers of the New Republic are going to culminate. I think having that in mind, the culmination could be Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah.
I see the common interest of the Republic, the New Republic, and Ahsoka trying to track them down. I think that would make a lot of sense, and I'd be interested. She says cinematic story event. I wonder if they're going to culminate it into one TV show, as in Ahsoka might stay as a separate show and Rangers will stay as a separate show, but there will be this sort of, I'll call it a season 1.5 kind of both shows, where they have a new show. Let's call it like the Thrawn show, or we can call it like the Search for Grand Admiral Thrawn, where I can see an entire season of a show, not a long show, but like a 12 episode maybe, or a similar length to Mandalorian, where they go from like looking for Thrawn to sort of concluding Thrawn,
Yeah.
and it picking up and splitting again. I'm not sure if they would do that, but I think it could be a situation where there's some elements of this happening where they'll converge and then they'll re-separate if they want to continue Rangers. I think Ahsoka would definitely be able to separate and they'll want to continue that character. I think Rangers is more based on fan reception. I mean,
Yeah.
there's with Dave Filoni knowing Ahsoka, we know he understands the character, he understands her story, he understands sort of Rosario Dawson. They've discussed the character. I think that's Ahsoka is very certain to get more than one season. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think it's a very certain prospect. Rangers I see as could be one season, could be more, maybe. But if they're supposed to culminate, it could be something where either they culminate in Rangers or in New Republic, and that is how it works. I think Ahsoka will stay separate as a separate show when they diverge again.
Yeah, I think it could end up being when they talk about the climatic story event, they might do like this two-parter. Part one will be in Reigns of the New Republic, part two at Ahsoka or something like that. I think that could be a possibility.
Yeah.
I think Reigns of the New Republic have already had a bit of a problem with Cara Dune, Gina Carano's character Cara Dune being fired, which we talked about in the previous podcast. If you want to go watch that, a little plug for that. But it'll be interesting how they handle that. I've seen a lot of speculation with the actor who played her adding a bit of smoke to the fire, saying that Iden Versio and Inferno Squad from Star Wars Battlefront 2 campaign might be involved in the show and could be potential to replace her. What do you think about
that? We've talked about again. This is another we've talked about Battlefront 2 and our opinions of the story, and I think we had the same opinion, which is as soon as she went from Empire to the Rebels, we lost interest a little bit.
Yeah.
I think I lost more interest when it went to the sequel era because I don't think they developed her enough before that. So we didn't. I think she switches very quickly, and I was looking forward to seeing the Empire through an Imperial's eyes. I think the idea of her being in a show will be difficult age-wise because depending on I guess it's only supposed to be what is it 7 or 8 years between Return of the Jedi and this.
It's just whenever the
Mandalorian era.
So
I think it's almost a decade gap. I think so. The age might not be a problem because the actress and actors who were in the Inferno Squad stuff in Battlefront 2 all look like their characters, and that's not an issue. And they all did physical action because they did motion capture and stuff. So that I think it could be good, but again, I don't know how much they want to they want to retcon in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, I think it could work because the last we see of Iden Versio is kind of in Battlefront 2 at the end. She kind of gives Leia the plans for the massive I forgot what it's called, but the massive
Starkiller base.
It wasn't that. It was the Last Jedi thing. The massive ship at the start of the Last Jedi, which they destroy really easily. We won't talk about that film.
Right.
She delivers the plan to Leia, and then she basically goes off to find other people who are a part of the Resistance. That's the last you see of her. But it wouldn't follow on from them because the Mandalorian's set along the same kind of timeline as the Battlefront 2 campaign. So I don't think it would necessarily work. But if they could weave it in, I think it could be decent. I mean, she's a strong female lead.
yeah, I think they want a strong female character. I think Iden Versity is not a bad option if they're trying to replace that idea. I think the problem is she's from a video game.
Yeah,
I'm not saying it's a less valuable medium. I'm just thinking that for people who don't know that character,
yeah,
um, they'll have to set her up in a way where you don't need to have known her character,
yeah, yeah.
if that makes sense.
That's yeah.
Um, they need to introduce her as almost a new character.
Yeah. With Rangers of the New Republic, uh, this I have a feeling you feel like it could be the Ahsoka, but I think this could be the Rebel sequel because I think it
Yeah,
would. I think it could make sense. I think we could see Harrison Dula. I think she could play a big role as like maybe the female lead, and then Sabine Wren could get appearances. Zeb, Callus, Chopper. I think they could all feature in the show, and I think that's how it will intertwine with
I,
Ahsoka because of
I think
the Rebels.
I think it'd be interesting to see if both shows end up being the Rebels sequel, as in
Yeah,
Ahsoka is kind of going to be a Rebel sequel anyway because it's got Ahsoka in it.
yeah,
If you know what I mean, like, and if she's trying to track down Grand Admiral Thrawn, that would follow on. And I think there is no reason to see why Rangers of the New Republic couldn't include characters from Rebels. I think the culmination where I think now, I think when they mix and they have their sort of MCU,
yeah,
style collision events where they're both going to be thrown into this, what would you say, culminate in a cinematic story event. I
yeah,
think when that happens, I think that will, I can see that as being the proper like Rebels like sequel kind of, rather like even if Rangers of the New Republic ends up being like you say, I feel like it's hard to continue Rebels with both like with just Rangers or just Ahsoka without
yeah,
missing characters out. Like you said, Sabine Wren. I hadn't really been thinking about that, but she would be very relevant to be in Rangers of the New Republic because she kind of is interested in Mandalore and being a part of Mandalore rather than just being a
yeah,
Mandalorian. If that makes sense. Like Boba Fett is completely happy with just being a Mandalorian rather than
yeah,
having to try and resolve what's going on Mandalore. Whereas I think she would be involved in that. In which case, I can see a lot of potential ways they'll try and do, I guess, a Rebel sequel, but that might not be what we were expecting with a show that's one show that follows on. I think it may be several, or maybe even the two shows will follow on then.
yeah,
Because but this is based on what we know, which is Ahsoka knows about Admiral Thrawn, which is directly from Rebels, and the very little we know about Rangers of the New Republic, which is basically the concept of it being about Rangers of the New Republic.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
pretty much all we know. We know it won't have Cara Dune in it because she's been fired, which means I think it won't pick up on the threads that were left. Maybe I think maybe Grief Karga will become a Ranger of the New Republic. I think Grief Karga was an interesting character. I'd like to see him take the
yeah.
spotlight a bit more. Carl Withers did that role
So
just perfectly.
yeah,
I think that could be interesting because um, I think with Rangers of the New Republic, they won't just cancel it because of Cara Dune. I think they must have, and if they had, they would have announced. They probably would have said about canceling it, or they would have. There would be speculation of it being cancelled, but we haven't heard any of that,
yeah. I think it's set
which means it'll
to.
be altered.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on to Andor, set to come out in 2022. It's going to be executively produced not by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, but by Tony Gilroy from the Jason Bourne films and Diego Luna, who plays Andor. It's described as a tense, nail-biting spy thriller set 5 years before Rogue One during the formative years of the rebellion, and is supposed to be a 12-episode series. Are you looking forward to this, Michael? I think
Um,
be a dark horse. I think it could be really strong.
This could be another situation like Reigns of the New Republic, I think, where there's a lot of stuff that's promising with it, but it's not like we know Ahsoka's going to be good, or I think we can all assume it's going to be a good show. We've seen what Ahsoka's like. We know how that's going to work. We've seen her in this time period. We know Book of Boba Fett is likely to be very good, and we know the Bad Batch is going to be good. So maybe you're right. This could be the dark horse because, again, this is going to be quite a dark take, I think, on the Star Wars universe because it's about the rebellion who are like, especially in the early rebellion, they're basically just terrorist cells who don't operate as an alliance, which I think could make it one of the more interesting things going on in this sort of time period with about the Rebel Alliance. It could be like Rogue One. Rogue One, I think people had mixed feelings about when that was going to come out. It looked good, but people were like, "Do we really need this?"
Yeah. Do we need a movie to explain how the rebels got the Death Star plans?
Death Star plans. I expect it's the same with this. Do we really need a story about Cassian Andor who dies in Rogue One? I think this, like you said, though, this could be really interesting. It's got the potential. It's got interesting things that could be explored. Bail Organa could be in this. That'd be an interesting character to have in this. I think that would be great. Mon Mothma, the actress who played her in Rogue One, I think has been linked to this.
No, she is. She is.
And K2SO is in it. It's a lot of stuff that sounds good. Could be great in practice. But we don't know how, like, what's going to happen in this. It seems like they've got a good director in having the director from the Bourne films. Yeah. I think that's a good match for the theme, and he's done, sort of thriller, spy, espionage style stuff before with, again, like you said, Bourne. I think this could be really interesting because we haven't had a sort of spy thriller style thing in Star Wars, really. I mean, you've had moments from TV shows where it's sort of a similar thing, but this is going to be on a entire show. It says 12 episodes. We've seen it says 12 episodes.
Yeah.
In places, I think that gives it a little bit of time to explore Cassian. I think Cassian wasn't like in the beginning of Rogue One. He's not a very likable character at all. He gets over it later on in the film, like midway through. I think exploring like why he's like that is an interesting sort of character study on this. It's strange they've called it Andor, considering he's sort of not a fan favorite character necessarily, as in he's not a big name. I'm surprised they didn't call it. They didn't name it something else, just as a Rebel show in general. But it's got potential. It could be like, I think Dark Horse is a good term for this show as well. I think maybe this. I'm more skeptical of this than Reigns of the New Republic, just because we sort of have seen the material the Mandalorian is likely to do, and like that era of show has done.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it's going to be quite a dark, gritty, like spy show with like K2SO for like the comic relief, like those moments of comic relief. I think Tony Gilroy is a good match for this. I mean, he's very invested in that spy film genre, so I think it could be a good match, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with it. So I think it's one of the shows I'm most looking forward to. Moving on to, I think it's the show that people are most excited for. We've been wanting it for so long, and we finally get it. The Obi-Wan TV show. We've got Deborah Chow, one of the directors from the Mandalorian series 1, directing. It's based 10 years after Revenge of the Sith. We've got Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen both reprising their roles. Kathleen Kennedy dubbing it as the rematch of the century. I mean, no pressure, but like that's dubbed it like to be, this could be amazing. Michael, your thoughts?
I think this isn't. I'm not saying I'm not excited for this, but it's one of the ones I'm not as excited just because we've been the hype. I feel like we've been hyped since what 2017 or something when we knew this was happening, but no one would confirm it. And I think my hype has died down for it, where I'm like, okay, when this comes out, I'll watch it. I'll be really excited when it comes out. But I've kind of put it in the back of my mind now because of how long we've been waiting. We've been waiting literal years for this. It's like when Clone Wars got saved, we were waiting quite a few years before that actually materialized. And until the sort of month or two before, I was excited. I was very excited. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't. Like we knew what was going to happen. We knew it's going to be very good. We knew the Clone Wars cast were back. I think this is a similar situation where it's one of the ones I'm probably the most excited for, but not now because we knew it was going to happen. We knew about it, even though we've been told no. We haven't heard. I haven't heard from Disney. No, they haven't approached me. Yes, I would play Obi-Wan if they asked me to do it again. I really enjoyed being on Star Wars. We heard that from Ewan McGregor all the time in every interview. Anyone got an interview with him? It'd be I haven't heard from Disney. I'd love to do it. They want to contact me. I'll be up for it. And he'd already done the deal to do it. He'd already said I'm up for this, and he'd already agreed it, and we all sort of knew this, but they wouldn't say.
It wouldn't be revealed. And then there was loads of rumors where is it going to happen? Is it not? Apparently, it's been cancelled. Apparently, it's not happening anymore. Is it going to happen? And now
it did look like it was going to be cancelled. I think we may have talked about it a couple of years ago, and I think because Disney Plus wasn't there, and it was a Solo basically almost got this cancelled. I think because it was meant to be a movie. Originally, it was going to be a movie. I think this is far better. I think a movie for this wouldn't do it, and I don't think a trilogy for this would be interesting to watch. If that makes sense. I think the setup of it being a TV show, by the sounds of it, we're going to have hour-long episodes, and it's going to be, 4 or 5 episodes. I think is what I've heard, something like that. 6 episodes. So it's basically like watching two very long films. But I think TV shows have an ability to explore character, maybe films don't. When it comes to the sort of stuff where there isn't one singular story for this as well. They don't have a singular idea of what's going to happen for the entire show. I think it will be an episode by episode basis, like we've heard, or he's planet hopping or something. So we've heard a little bit of where he's going to be on other worlds. He won't just be on Tatooine. We've had that sort of. I think we've had that repeated to us on several occasions about this going to be set on other planets. So I think, it's going to be good.
They like some of the information that's come out about the plot. That we've seen concept art which showed Vader marching on the Jedi Temple, possibly hinting to there being like flashbacks. The Jedi hunters will appear, so I could see some Inquisitors. It was described by someone saying it starts on Tatooine and they go on a rollicking adventure, including a watery planet, which is interesting because. Just trying to think of what watery planet that could be. Are they talking about Camino?
I don't think it'd be Camino.
Moncala. I just don't know which planet they could be talking about there.
I doubt Camino quite a lot because what's going on Scarif. I don't see that either because we know that's like an Imperial base, right? In this period, I think this is set before Rogue One, or will be.
Course,
So this will be an Imperial base again. I don't think he's going to be. There could be bits that are set in Scarif if we're looking at characters that aren't Obi-Wan. So maybe the Inquisitors will be based there, and that might be. But I doubt if it's talking about. It said that we're going to go on an adventure, the chances are this is a main planet and we're going to be there for a lot of time, maybe an entire episode or 2 episodes. It could be Mon Cala could be an interesting one to explore. We haven't had that planet really explored. We had we had a planet in the Mandalorian in the same sector. I think it was a colony world explored, and that was a fascinating location.
Yeah, no, that was.
I was a little skeptical when I'd seen the trailer of that, and I was like, I wasn't sure how that planet could be interesting.
Yeah,
but it was a really interesting location.
It had the Mon Calamari people, and it had the how do you say that?
Quarren, yeah.
On that planet, it was a mix. So I think it could be a really exciting, just seeing Ewan McGregor, and whether we'll see Hayden Christensen outside the suit as well, or whether we'll just see him in the Darth Vader suit. I think that could also be an interesting thing to explore.
I think either way, having Hayden Christensen was the big announcement that kind of. I think before when it got announced, I don't think we knew I don't remember if we knew about Hayden Christensen or if that was announced later. I think the confirmation of that. But when that happened, I think my hype went up for a bit more again. I'm very excited about it, but I know it's beginning production this year. I think it's quite soon, but it's a ways off. It's probably 2023, 2022, something like that.
Yeah, probably.
I think 2023 is reasonable because it's 6 hours, which means they're basically making 2 films, and normally that's a long time to release, unless they do like 3 episodes. I could see them releasing 3 episodes 1 year and 3 episodes another year, but they don't want to do 2 seasons, do they? They want to do it as a 1 season. So it'd be interesting to see how they do it. I mean, it'd be interesting to see if they drop it like Mandalorian was, episode by episode basis as well. I think all of the shows will release like that on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I think it's exciting. I think
it's a few years off.
I think Obi-Wan's gonna be great. With just seeing Ewan McGregor back in that role. Moving on to a darker film, which there's not much really known about it. The Acolyte. Leslie Headland is going to be executive producer. She is big for Russian Doll. I personally haven't seen it, but apparently it's really well critically acclaimed and pretty incredible. It's described as a mystery thriller that would take us into a galaxy of shadowy secrets and emerging dark side powers in the final days of the High Republic era. So it's set in the era that Star Wars are moving into, with the Taika Waititi film and then the other 2 trilogy films. And I don't know, there's not much really known about it other than it's set in the High Republic era and it's reportedly got a female protagonist. What do you think about this? Do you know much about it, or sure?
Well, by the title, we can sort of guess that it will be about the dark side of the Force. I think we can guess that, and I think it says mystery thriller is the speculations we've heard. I think this could be interesting because this will probably look at the dark side Force users, not Sith necessarily.
Yeah, sure.
I think that's my impression. Is it could be either about that or then maybe something similar to the Night Sisters. That would be something interesting to explore. It will definitely be towards the like dark side, or like even a sort of a darker theme as well. And I think it's going to be a limited run. I don't think this will be a multi-season one. This will be a 1 season and done, probably, unless they're planning for this protagonist to be a very important character in this new era of the High Republic. I think it's likely it could be a 1 series thing where they're trying to pump out loads of different High Republic material.
Yeah,
and that's how it seems, because they have the comic book series is ongoing. I haven't read that. and there's the High Republic book as well, which I haven't read either. But I think they're trying to pump out as much of this material to try and get people invested. Uh, it's had a very different direction to the Mandalorian era, where the Mandalorian era has literally had the Mandalorian, and now is having stuff. Whereas this seems to be they're trying to like shove as much stuff in our like faces to try and get like give us a taste of it and see if they're trying to get us to like it. I think.
Yeah.
I think it's the way to say it. It's like it's a lot of High Republic era stuff seems to be coming out all at once. You know what I mean? Like they're all in close proximity of each other. And I wonder if this is going to be if this is actually going to be about sort of the dark side, or whether this is going to be the sort of thing like we were talking about Iron Versio, how she went from the Empire to the Republic too quickly. I worry that could happen. I hope by the title it sounds like that won't happen, and that would be really interesting if we have a dark side character stay on the dark side for an entire season of the show, at least an entire season of the show, if this was multi-seasonal, that is. And then if they want to, they could explore how do people go from the dark side to the light side. I mean, that might be a direction they want to explore if this is a character they want to start making prominent in this era. But speculation says this is the final days of the High Republic era. So
that's what
I think that's the main thing. Yeah. That's the main thing I'm thinking is a one season show.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because they're saying it's set in the final days of the High Republic era. So it's set after the films that are meant to come out. So it's going to have to link to the High Republic films and kind of have to conclude what they've started. But I'm not sure if it comes out before. The Taika Waititi film might come out before it actually, but it's just going to be, surely there'll have to be some communication between Leslie Headland and the directors of the films. Otherwise, it might not necessarily make sense unless it's like a thing which is happening during the end of that period that the High Republic is just not like don't really know about.
I think possibly. Well, it says it's set in the final days of the High Republic. I don't think the final days of the High Republic are meant to be as a result of this, rather than results of other stuff. Which means maybe this is meant to be very, like, far separated from the main bit of the High Republic stuff they're funding, which is the Jedi Order. Pretty much seems to be the general stuff they're sort of throwing at us, I guess.
Yeah.
I say throwing at us because of the complete volume of stuff they want us, like the Mandalorian. I know they're doing like 4 or 5 shows and now being based around that, but that has existing popular material in the Mandalorian.
They're just throwing things at us, like
they're hoping it sticks. I have a feeling it's like they're throwing food at the wall until something sticks. Basically, with this, I hope we haven't seen it, so that may be a harsh analysis, but it does feel like they're throwing a lot of money at this High Republic thing, and it could be detrimental to Star Wars if it doesn't do well, because we saw what happened with Solo. That didn't work, and Obi-Wan Kenobi show was going to be a film. Sorry, the film seemed like it had issues as a result of that, and other projects got, like, Lando was meant to have a film, or rumors had it he was going to have a film after Solo. That didn't materialize until Disney Plus. I think Disney Plus and basically the Mandalorian has saved a lot of that material they were working on, and I worry that again this could be a dark horse where it's going to be this could be really good. It's got a cool premise, dark side of the Force, a sort of like mystery. It could be like a sort of I don't know how you call it, like not paranormal events, but like some sort of like weird anomaly in the Force, sort of, you know, like the Mortis arc from the Clone Wars with the brother and the sister.
More horror in like oriented.
Yeah, I think there'll be the mystery could be something sort of like I say paranormal, but I mean like Force related paranormal stuff. Like it could be like the witch. I think that's why I was thinking maybe the Night Sisters would be interesting if
Yeah,
that's part of this, and they're probably in the height, like also in their height of the power because they're not dealing with the Sith.
yeah,
Uh, so I think that I think a TV show about a sort of, I guess, an acolyte of of the Night Sisters, someone who's like starting out would be interesting. I'm not sure if that's what it is. It does say dark side powers, and they use the dark side of the Force, and they live on a Dathomir, which hasn't been shown in live action before.
yeah,
I think that's there's a lot of potential for these things. I mean, we're all just speculating here with for this one, especially based on the title and the very little we've heard, which we would have mystery thriller. We kind of would have assumed by the title and the sort of setting and the theme we know it's going to be in. But
yeah.
yeah, some sort of like horror, sort of like just strange force related thing would be really interesting thing for them to explore. Like like I was saying, the Mortis arc from the Clone Wars was this sort of strange force related anomaly. Like the actual place, like was just very like it didn't was beyond comprehension, especially for the Jedi that were there. I think this could be something similar where it could have some sort of similar level event where there's that sort of aspect of the Force involved, or like was it the Wills they're starting to bring that in, which was
Yeah,
sort of in the Clone Wars as well, with Yoda learning how to do the how to keep your own individuality in the Force, basically and become a Force ghost. I think that something along those lines of like Force related mystery that explores the Force in a more like visual way, where we see something very mysterious. I don't know how you describe it, but something like that. Yeah,
yeah.
some sort of like horror, sort of mystery style thing.
It could be. It could be. It could be good. It
It's
could
another
be.
dark horse, I think, with this is
Yeah,
we don't
definitely.
know very much about it. We haven't seen we haven't seen Leslie Headland do Star Wars. And she's writing and producing it, so we don't know who's directing it. I don't think we know who's directing it yet because they haven't finished writing.
Mm.
By the sounds of it, we don't know who's going to be in it, and we don't know a lot about it. I think
Yeah,
it's one of the ones we know the least about, even compared to like was it Rangers of the New Republic? We don't know a lot about, but we know a lot about the surrounding material. Whereas this is completely new to both of us, at least,
yeah,
if not most of the fan base haven't read the High Republic stuff.
yeah. Definitely the majority. So it will be
It's got
interesting.
it'll be interesting to see how Star Wars unfolds from now on with all these materials. Like we're saying, there's a lot of dark horses
Yeah,
in this.
yeah. Moving on to another potential dark horse, Rogue Squadron, set to come out
Oh,
Christmas 2023, directed by uh, Patty Jenkins, who did both the Wonder Woman films. Introduces us to a new era of starfighter pilots. Michael, after what you've heard about the Wonder Woman film, I know you haven't seen the sequel. I have. What do you think?
we
How?
when we saw this list got announced, this was before Wonder Woman 84 came out.
Yeah,
And I think this is one of the films we had talked about, and I had said at the time, Patty Jenkins did Wonder Woman, or had said about it, and I said this could be really good. Now
yeah,
that was based on the Wonder Woman, which is I think it's a very good superhero origin film. But from what I've heard of Wonder Woman 84, and you've told me it's not a masterpiece by any standards. I'm now worried, but again, when this was announced, this was exciting to me, but it was again similar thing where it could be good, could be bad, but now it's a bit more of a concern whether it be good or bad.
yeah. No, it's Wonder Woman 1984. Patty Jenkins definitely took. She directed the first one. This one, she also got involved with the writing. She took a more hands-on role, and the first act of it is decent. Then it gets really stupid. Doesn't make sense. and that worries me because Rogue Squadron is a film that I've wanted them to make for ages. Just a fighter pilot, a fun, high intensity, um, like thriller with just lots of just space battles, and that was what I loved about Star Wars when I was especially younger. So then making this film excites me, and I think 1980 Wonder Woman's 2 isn't great. However, every director, most directors have a stinker. Like they no
Yeah.
no director really has it. Like everything they touch is incredible. Like Patty Jenkins, I think her father was a fighter pilot. I think she could bring a really good sense of just like knowing about like because her dad so be able to take experiences from that and something she said which really interested me was she said we're doing something original with great influence from the games and the books, so they're taking influence from the games and the books. What do you think she could mean by taking it from the games and books?
Um, well, was it Star Wars Squadrons came out recently,
Yeah,
and that has a lot of the sort of fighter combat. I wonder if a lot of there's going to be a lot of conversation between her and how space combat works. And I think maybe a lot of it will be in the games department to do with how do we approach the combat. And I was thinking about this while you were discussing how this is going to be a fight film. The thing that came to mind was the old uh, Dam Busters film,
sure.
which is about the Dam Busters, and it's a similar like it's a film about like the pilots going and flying the plane to drop these bombs, and some of it's like for the mission and development of it, and then the mission itself. And I'd imagine it'll be something similar to those sort of like older war films. Was it the the Geonosis arc, the second battle of Geonosis? That's a lot of that. They got footage from films like I'm talking about the Dam Busters,
Yeah,
and they cut it together, and then they went and animated basically the cut bit with the spaceships they wanted.
yeah,
So a lot of the sort of like maneuvers and the way combat works and how anti air stuff worked in that was based on World War II sort of films. So I imagine this will have a similar thing where it's a lot of the combat will be inspired by that, but also Star Wars Squadrons has like a lot of. I imagine there's a lot of research went into by George, like by Lucasfilm discussing how space combat should feel, how it works, and maybe that's what the inspiration she's talking about is. And was it Harrison Dula is in Star Wars Squadrons
yes,
in the
sure.
story missions? So I wonder if some of that there might be some references to some of that material. The books I'm not sure about because I haven't. The only book I've actually read is the Ahsoka book, and I read that when we had before season 7. When it read it like sometime after it came out, but before we knew season 7 was going to happen. Because I read it because I was like kind of fed up of waiting for season 7 to happen,
Yeah,
and it fills the gap quite nicely, or it did. The Clone Wars stuff's been retconned, but it fills in the gap between Clone Wars and Rebels. Still, the actual bit where she starts becoming a rebel is really
yeah,
interesting. And but the books I think will be interesting because I haven't read them, but I think there's a few books about. I think Rogue Squadron or what one there's some book about some of the rebels in the current canon, as in from the Disney era books. I think there's some books on the Rebel Alliance. So maybe that's what she's talking about with the books. If we're assuming that she's talking about game, like as in Star Wars influences, she could be
yeah,
talking about other influences outside of Star Wars for games and books, though. But I assume it's meant to be Star Wars, in which case I see probably Star Wars Squadrons being a big influence. Maybe Jedi Fallen Order is what she's alluding to, being the other canonical game. But I don't know how that fits into it really.
maybe we should look at the Star Wars Battlefront games and fighter Starfighter Assault. I hope she's not because that's a boring game mode. But yeah, it could be
Yeah,
something you should look at.
Star Wars Squadrons is good though. I think that
Yeah,
maybe that's where most of the inspiration is coming for. Again, I think it's we were saying it a lot. As I said earlier, a lot of this list is dark horses where we don't know if they're going to be good or bad.
yeah,
We don't really know too much about them besides like very limited knowledge of the premise based on the title and small snippets
yeah.
we've heard from directors or producers or writers.
Yeah, exactly. Now, yeah, I think that's enough on Rose Squadron. Moving on to Lando, I know you're excited about this one being created by Justin Simeon, who did Dear White People, which was a very well loved series. Um, there isn't much information about the show. There is, apart from called Lando, and it's been created by Justin Simeon. The speculation is that it's set to involve both Donald Glover and Billy D. Williams, where this is through flashbacks or dual timelines. What do you think about it? Because I know you've been
I'm
wanting a
so
Lando
I'm
show for so long.
I think we talked about this. We just need a show about Captain Rex, and that's all my favorite. We've had my favorite cats. We've got Sophie, we've got Lando, and we have Captain Rex. Anyway, though, Lando, he's just like Lando is one of my favorite. Is probably my favorite original trilogy character, or very very close.
Yeah,
And he's sort of. I feel this is for in a lot of people's minds a bit of a dark horse, but I see so much potential. I want this so badly to be good. I think the other ones are dark horses. I'm like, well, if they're not good, they're not good. This, I really, what this needs to be good for me. Like,
yeah,
I want this more than most of the stuff on the list just to be good. That the stuff we don't know whether it's going to be good or bad. This is the dark horse I'm worried about because it kind of is important whether they do this well or not. Because I think he's an important character, especially if we're going to talk about the sequels. In the sequel era, he has quite a large role in the Rise of Skywalker, although not as large as I would have liked. uh, I think the idea of having Donald Glover and Billy D. Williams both play him, I think that's the best way to approach this. Probably, I think Billy D. Williams deserves to be involved in this project. He deserves to be a part of this. He deserves to maybe be fitted into the Mandalorian era, possibly. Although maybe he's a bit too old for that now. But he deserves to have this character done well for him and possibly be involved in the project, whether that's through flashbacks or dual timelines. I don't know. I think maybe having, if this is a one series run, having half a season be young Lando, Donald Glover, who I think did a very good job in Solo, and then half the season being Billy D. Williams or was it dual timelines also being talked about? So maybe them running concurrently or something be interesting. But I think having both is would be very good. But I think I'm happy either way for more Lando. I mean, I threw some ideas around because we know nothing about when this is set. Just fan fictiony ideas, which was I would love it if Hondo and Lando had a show together. Not because the names rhyme, although that'd be interesting. But I think they would be like pretty good together. I know it won't happen, but I think they would have good chemistry. They're both charismatic sort of smugglers. They're likable criminals.
yeah.
Especially in Rebels. I think Hondo is very likable in Rebels.
And in Clone Wars, I mean, I think people love to hate him.
I think in Rebels though he's more of a likable character rather than oh god, Hondo again. You love him. He's like your mate that you take the piss out of basically.
Yeah.
You always have that one mate who's like a bit like he can be a bit of a dick, but you just love him to bits because he's likable. I feel that's Hondo in a nutshell, especially in Clone Wars, where you're just like, oh, do you really need to do this, Hondo? But we don't mind because it's you. I think he'd be good. I know that won't happen. I think Hondo is an interesting character because of Galaxy's Edge. and he's involved. He's a character involved in that, and that's canon. And I think there's possibilities because of that part. They may want to do something with his character, although it's very off track. But with Lando, I see a lot of potential. I think again, we know Donald Glover did a good job, and Billy D. Williams is Lando.
Yeah.
Like he just is Lando, and he loves that character, and he would sign up to do it. There's no doubt that both of them would likely go and sign up to do it. So I don't see why they wouldn't want to do this. And it seems a bit weird that Kennedy didn't disclose who Lando would be portrayed by. I think that kind of hints it could be both, but maybe that's because we want it to be both, if that makes sense. We want to read into it as being both. But yeah, we don't know anything about it. We know it won't be basically anything that happened in Solo, and we know that he's not going to have. It's likely going to be set after Solo, I think.
Yeah, sure.
If it was young Lando, I mean, they could do it before then, but I think they'll want to develop his character rather than have him build up to Solo. I think they'd rather develop post Solo Lando, and I think if they do older Lando, I'm not sure what period they want to cover. Maybe they want to do something roughly similar time period to Mandalorian with him, but yeah, it's hard to tell because we don't know who's going to portray him, and there's a lot of wiggle room in that time period. I mean, Donald Glover can't replay like original trilogy or older Lando, so or at least I don't think they would do it. So I think we know it's going to be sometime between Rogue One and Solo, or possibly before Solo.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Moving on now to Visions, which is a 10 animated short films which are going to be created by leading Japanese anime studios. They haven't been there are no specifics yet on what those studios are. All we know is that they're leading Japanese anime studios. This is a series which can be celebrating the galaxy through the lens of the world's best anime creators, offering a fresh and diverse cultural perspective to Star Wars. You're really excited by this, aren't you, Mike?
I'm excited by the idea that they're going to do. I think shorts. So the idea of short films is very exciting. 10 short films. So basically episode. Like I imagine if it's short films, they don't mean 5-10 minute. I think they mean 20-30 minutes.
Yeah.
I doubt anything longer than that, but I see it being 20-30 minutes, which is a lot you can do with shorts with that length. I think the idea of it being a very different style to what we've had with Star Wars is exciting. It says the world's best anime creators, but they haven't named any names, which is, I think the thing we were talking about it. We talked about it a tiny bit, and I said I was excited about it, but there was one thing I was worried about, which is CG animation. And well, this isn't the problem with the Clone Wars or anything, but it is a problem with anime where CG animation can be just god awful.
Yeah,
it can just be bad. It's not always bad, but it's certainly something that at least in the anime community, like CG animation is not well liked. Yeah. And I think if Lucasfilm are trying to capitalize off that market, they're going to need some big names. They're going to need good animation if they're trying to move like from maybe like towards the anime market rather than trying to aim maybe at us, at the traditional Star Wars fan base, or at least the fans who aren't into anime. I think this is going to be something where, yes, people who are like somewhat interested in Star Wars might watch it, but I think it's got a far more limited scope because a lot of people are put off by anime if they're not interested in it. But I'm excited because 10 short films done by lots of different creators sounds really, really interesting. And the idea there's going to be Star Wars anime is kind of a bit mind-boggling. Yeah. It's like just a very weird thing for them to announce.
Yeah, it will certainly be interesting. I do hope it's good. Now, moving on to our last, the last thing that was announced, which is also animation, a droid story, which everyone it's looking forward to. I think it's everyone's favourite, definitely. Lucasfilm Animation teaming up with ILM, also known as Industrial Light and Magic, will introduce a new hero guided by R2D2 and C3PO, and will go on a mission known only to them. What could possibly go wrong? Now, Michael, what possibly could go wrong?
We're going to talk about CG animation again. CG, we know it's CG animated. We know it's Lucasfilm and ILM, which could be good, but it like all of the animated stuff they've done is always a different style, and that's a little bit of worry because I don't think Resistance was. I think Resistance looked good in some ways and didn't look good in others. I think Rebels, I think everyone, even the people, even us who like Rebels, can agree that the art style's a bit plasticky. It's like it's just a bit dull. Like everything looks. It doesn't look worn, and it's just a bit. Some of the faces and the people don't look so good. I have a few thoughts of like maybe if it's ILM and Lucasfilm and they're trying to do something different, it could be one of those sort of photorealistic CGI things. If this is like a film, maybe this is a TV show, in which case this is just a strange thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just a weird one. Like Visions is weird, but I can see the potential. Whereas this, I'm not like I want there to be potential, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I
You know
don't
what I
think
mean?
it's gonna stand out. I think it could be one of those ones which will be like, yeah, it's all right. I think that's what it's likely to be. Anyway, guys, that brings us to the end of our discussion. What do you think? Leave a comment. Let us know what you're looking forward to most. Michael, which one are you looking forward to most?
Oh, it's hard to choose. You know what? I'm gonna go with Ahsoka. I'll go with Ahsoka.
Then I'm gonna go for Obi-Wan just because I love that character.
Yeah.
But what do you think? Leave it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Sorry, the audio cut out for this bit, but thank you for watching and may the Force be with you.